Thank you, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. We have 2 contracts with Tecton Architects, one for preliminary design of a new police station, which we had advised to put on hold because of the bidding climate. The other contract is for development of plans and specs for interim improvements, especially the front of the building where the bricks are starting pretty well separate, the roof, some problems with the sidewalks with spalling, and especially the handicap ramp. So we met on November 22nd and reviewed about 25% plans that they've developed. Today, their structural engineer reviewed the building with the police chief. They went up on the roof, did some measurements, looked at how the bricks are separating from the building to help with the design. The schedule is such that we want to get the project out to bid, early winter, so we can get a spring start and get it done. Our next meeting is the 13th. Of course, everybody is invited to that. At that point, we expect to have almost complete plans that we can review. And I think the schedule will be such that I can report back to you at the next meeting how that progressed. Okay?
And then after that, we might be able to have a joint meeting and go over the new plans, or?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Any questions?
I have a question. Right now, a little problem on the board, right? Because how many people are assigned to the Halliwell Review Committee? 5, right? I think you have a 5-member board?
Oh, a task force is 5, yes.
5. And Mr. Vadney, I'd like to see Mr. Vadney remain part of that part of the board. So would it be possible to increase that to a 6-member board in order to let Mr. Vadney stay on there?
Because there's supposed to be a person from the council on it.
But he's not on the council anymore, but
Right.
he's an integral part of that
Yeah.
that organization.
Yeah, what would we have to do to increase that?
We can, it's a council rule, it's a council resolution. We can check, I can check it and report back to the council next meeting.
Okay,
I'm sure you'd like to see him stay on as well.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about the committee is each person has a different skill set.
yeah.
And, we'll try to work together to resolve things and come up with the best solution, so that would be great.
Yeah. I know he did ask to be put on, so.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. He is
he does-
interested?
Yeah, he
Okay.
does want to stay
Okay,
on, so.
great. Okay, then we will
All
let
right,
you
so
know. how
we'll take care of
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion by council vote or other action on status/progress report on completion of specific items. There's nothing? Okay. Next item, no Smithfield Town Council sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. A, discussion by council vote or other action on mobile food truck establishment, DBA Methods of a Madwoman, Inc., located at Chamberland Company off Great Road. Is there anyone here for that? Does she want to come up to the podium? Hi, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
You just want to tell us a little bit about the food truck?
Sure. So I started in July, and I've been executive chef for years before that. Started to go on my own, because my daughter's 5 now, so it's kind of tough hours, so mobile kitchen, and pretty much I made it methods so I could do different things and be kind of whatever I needed to be to go to different events. So right now I have like ramen and lettuce bowls and chicken bowls, but gonna do some catering,
All
eventually.
right. Anyone have any questions?
I just want to know how you decided to name it Methods of a Madwoman.
So I was actually like 16 when I came up with the name, and I don't remember how, but I just held on to that for a long time, and then when I went on my own, I was like, oh my God, you know what, I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna
Good
do
for
it, and
you.
it fit with the truck, so.
That's great.
Thank you, yeah, it's been good.
So you're going to be at that location Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5?
Not, not all the time, just, I have other events, like I have other
So when you have
permits.
time, you'll be
Right,
there?
yeah,
Okay.
so.
All right. And Madam Clerk, everything is in order that's showing here? All right. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Madwoman to have her food truck.
Is there a second?
Second. I second that, Madwoman.
Thank you.
All right. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck. All right, new business, next one, discussion by council vote of other action on North Smithfield Association support staff personnel / NEARI / NEA contract, North Smithfield School Committee, public hearing. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Before we do, can I just ask David a question? So I was on the budget committee, and we didn't take a vote. I talked to Cynthia about this, because we met before the inauguration. I know the memo has my name as chairperson on it. I don't need to recuse myself from this vote? Okay, perfect. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. All right, is there anyone that wants to speak on the contract? I know Mr. St. Jean was supposed to be here.
Hi, my name's Ed Simzik. I'm the president of the NEA support staff. I guess you guys have questions?
Oh, you're here to answer questions?
I guess.
Lucky you. I looked through it, and I found it to be very straightforward. I didn't see anything glaring. There was no obvious question that I had right now. I don't know if anyone else does.
Yeah, it looks like all the redlined in the contract is basically just cleaning up wording or cleaning up some processes that maybe have changed since the original contract. So I didn't really see much of anything to talk upon. Anyone else have any questions or?
No, but I'd like to make a comment. I've seen this young man work at different schools over the years and his staff, and it was a good team, and I support that which I feel you well deserve.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to get up and speak? This is the time. No? I think you're all set.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second that motion?
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Did anyone want to make a motion to approve the contract?
I'll make a motion to approve the North Smithfield Association of Support Staff Personnel, NEARI, NEA contract.
And I second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Okay. Discussion by council vote or other action on proposed reservation reclass FY 2023. Mr. Jesus.
Good evening. I'm asking the town council to transfer, actually just change the description on a reserve account. We had set $35,000 for animal control van. In the next item, you will see that the quote came in much less, but one of the quotes for the trucks came in much more, so we want to transfer $7,141.82 from the animal control van to the pickup truck, the F-250 with the plow.
Thank you.
And all it is a description on the reserve.
Motion?
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to reclass the proposed $7,141.82 from the capital reserve animal control to the pickup truck, the F-250 with plow.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on purchase of 3 trucks. Mr. Pendergast?
Good evening. We have, I'll do the first one. The first one's the most recent one in the budget. It's a 2022 Ford 350 with a plow. I'm asking for approval for the amount of $78,176.35. And the finance director can answer where the money's coming from, because the next 2 are coming out of reserve accounts.
So is this on the capital?
This is, this truck here is under the 22-23 capital budget.
That is correct.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
I just have a quick question about the, how the bids were submitted, just so you can let people know how you went about
Yep.
getting those costs.
These all fall under the contract for goods and services by and between Metropolitan Area Planning Council and MHQ. The RFP number is in your packet. That's looking, bidding, they bid and then they put it under that. And we've used this in the past for certain trucks,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
Any other questions on this vehicle?
Let me comment again, Mr. Pendergast, if he puts in for anything because he really needs it and it can no longer be put together any other way. And if we don't give these men the tools they need to do their job, they will not be able to do their job.
Thank you. Do you,
Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 Ford F-350 in the amount of $78,176.35. The funding will come from the approved fiscal year 2023 capital budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next vehicle?
the following 2 vehicles have been put on ice, as I call it, for the last couple of years because of all the craziness getting vehicles. So this next one, I believe the finance director can correct me if I'm wrong, comes out of the 2022 capital reserve account. And this one is for a 2022 Ford F-250 with a plow. The amount I'm looking for approval is $47,141.82, and it was through the same bidding company that we just did the other one with, the Boston Council.
May I? And you said you've been waiting for this for a while, Mr. Pendergast?
This truck, and then the next one's the animal control, which I've been waiting about 2.5 years for.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what is the actual delivery on these? Oh, you don't have a
We
delivery?
still, we hear shortly, but we've been hearing that for quite a while. So, things seem to be moving faster in the last year, so I'm hoping that, we're hoping for 2 trucks before the winter really kicks in. The animal control van, I think, is up to 175,000 miles now, so it's kind of crazy, actually.
Okay. All right, any questions on the F-250? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the F-250 2022 for a price of $47,141.82, with the funding, with the approval coming from the fiscal year 2022 capital reserve.
Is there a second?
Second the motion?
And roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. And the third vehicle, the Ford Transit Connect?
That's correct. This is for the Animal Control Division. This is a 2022 Ford Transit Connect XL. I really didn't know what it was until I saw a picture of it. It's like this miniature van. We don't really take in large animals anymore. Deer and stuff we can't handle, so I kind of made a decision to kind of downsize this, and the numbers actually came in quite nice. So this price that I'm looking for approval is $27,701 in the same company that we use for the bidding.
And how many miles did you say the other one had?
I think we're in the
Almost
area of 175 now, and there's a lot of rot on the van. It really has seen its better days.
Any questions?
I have a question. 27,000 for, it's a brand-new truck?
Brand new.
That's crazy right now, the way things are.
I figured the person that really would appreciate this, Past Administrator Izowski.
Yeah, that's a
Like
great
when I was
price.
trying to get myself a pickup truck, he convinced me into this little car. And I saved money in gas. I have a hard time sitting in it, but anyway, I was thinking, actually, Gary, I was thinking of you when I saw this picture and I saw the van, so it works.
Well, yeah, if you're not picking up large, you know.
Yeah, and the new animal control people are not as tall as the good ones, so I don't have to worry about it.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 Ford Transit Connect, a smaller truck, in the amount of $27,701, and approved fiscal year 2022 capital reserve fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion by council vote, other action on abatement slash supplementals. Ms. St. George? Hi. Yes, thank you. Does anyone have any questions on this?
So wait a minute. So we're abating
We're working on this.
31,552,
That's supplemental.
that's supplemental, okay.
Does anyone have any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the supplemental of $31,552.52 for the tax assessor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Joanne, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Then I have abatements in the amount of $4,346.87.
Now, are these all basically from the reeval?
Yes, and 2 of them went to the Board of Review.
So the other ones that didn't, they were just approved through yourself? Okay.
And the deadline was November 15th, so hopefully it won't be anymore.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I can make a motion to approve the abatements in the amount of $4,346.87.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Next item, discussion by council vote or other action on request to draft amendment to the 2009 sewer ordinance, section 8-29K. Mr. Dory, you taking it?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot to go through here.
yeah, well, I'm not gonna go through the, back and forth. The sewer
Yeah.
commission really lets the members of the community comment and have their full say, which I think is important. But basically, the long and the short of it is, Ms. Scott at 33 White Parkway, I think some of you may be familiar with what happened, was her son was alerted by her that the pipes in her house weren't draining out to the sewer. So they had the workmen come out and look at the line, they found the lateral, and it appears, based after cameraing the lines, that the breakdown in the pipe is after the property line. So normally the town would step in and take care of that if the person had a trap at the end of their property line. In this particular case, the property does not have a trap at the end of the property line, so the ordinance is very clear that if there is no trap at the end of the property line, that the homeowner is responsible from the home all the way to the main sewer line, where there's basically a Y that connects to the main sewer line. Now, this is really common in cities like Woonsocket and Providence. They usually make homeowners or property owners dig up the street at their own expense, which is incredibly expensive, and we have to connect to the actual sewer line. In North Smithfield, if you have a trap, the town takes responsibility for that and digs up its own streets and fixes anything outside of the property line unless you have that trap. Now, we're not sure when the ordinance was modified or if it was like this originally. Nobody could find the original ordinance that was in place when these houses were constructed. But what the ordinance seems to do is shift the burden to the homeowner in case the trap isn't there. And the reason for this was back in the day, cameras, when they lateral the lines, couldn't tell exactly where the breakdown was. You could guess, but there was definitely no way to tell definitively where that breakdown occurred. So the town was avoiding the cost of going onto somebody's property to dig up on their property, dig up on the town's property, trying to figure out where it was. You didn't have this trap at the end of your property line, you were assumed to just take complete responsibility. Made sense back in the day. Well, now we have the technology to camera the lines, and these cameras are really sophisticated. They send sonar signals up through the ground, so you can pinpoint exactly where the sonar is stopping, and you can tell whether it's actually beyond the property line or whether it's still on the town member's property line. So after hearing all the discussion from the various members of the community, we thought that since the town has already taken responsibility for some of the houses, if they have this trap, and we believe that's based on being able to tell where the breakdown is, that if the homeowner can conclusively prove that the breakdown is not on their property, that it would make sense to amend our ordinance to conform with the beginning part of it, which seems to say the town will take responsibility. That would mean the person would have to hire somebody to prove definitively where it is, but if they can prove that it's off their property and on the town's property or on a road, then we would do what we do for everybody else. We believe that was the intent of having the traps at the end of the property line, and this would just kind of conform with that. So we've asked you to approve this amendment, or approve sending it to the solicitor, so the solicitor can draft some new language, which I'd be happy to work with them on, so that this now conforms with the latest technological upgrades. We did have a second motion, which really isn't binding on you. As of the last meeting, she was still not able to go into her house because it still wasn't raining. And we weren't sure, we were very clear about what the ordinance says. The town right now is not responsible. But if the homeowner and her son were to dig up the street and fix the line, and it definitely is after on the town's property, that the town should reimburse them for doing that, because what we're suggesting is the town should be doing. But that's really up to you.
I'd like to ask a question. I live in that area. When we moved in, we had septic tanks. It was about, what, 76, Michael? Okay? And then most of us got Giga and Marchand because if everybody went with one place, we got a better price. We depended on these people. Let's face it, we had a septic. I had a septic, was septic, then I had an overflow, which is like 80 of 100 feet, never had any problems. Now, if we come in and they don't make the adjustments for long-term usage, at our stage in life, Mrs. Scott and I, that's a big to-do. We were young ones then. It was a big to-do then.
You're still young though now.
Oh, God bless you. I'll accept that, but I'm a realist as well. There's a lot of older people living there now. I'm not 27 anymore. Add 50 years onto that. And it would be a financial burden. How can we protect the older people in that neighborhood? We've been there a long time. We depended on things going to code so we would be protected. How do I know where that thing is? Couldn't tell you. It's bad enough that we had to get new pipes. And I don't know about you, but I can tell you what happens when you sink in a sinkhole right now. And we weren't protected for that either. So how can you help us as a taxpayer? And can I vote on this? You know, I hate to see this happen to the Scotts, but I'm sure if it happened there and things weren't done right, there'll be other houses running into that problem because it's the same contractor. What can I tell you?
So the first thing I would say is I don't know if the contractor did anything right or wrong. There was talk at the meeting about whether they should have been grandfathered, but I can't really tell if there was ever a change in the ordinance. For all I know, the contractor did all the houses wrong and not up to code. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time a contractor got something signed off by a municipality that was completely out of code. However, let's just assume the contractor did their job right. At some point in the future, the town made these adjustments. I can understand there are a lot of towns that don't want to take responsibility for, or do not take responsibility at all from the home all the way to the main line. So a lot of the big cities, this wouldn't even be here. There wouldn't be no splitting of the baby. They would say you are completely responsible for it. What was different about our code was that the town did seem to want to take some responsibility if it could determine exactly where the breakdown of the pipe was. If it's on your property, you take care of it. If it's on our property, we'll take care of it. But the only way back in the day to definitively tell that was that track. So at some point, it looks like the town made that decision. And that's fine. I can understand why a town would want to take some responsibility, but wouldn't want to have it open-ended where they're looking for the breakdown, especially back before we had the technology that we use today. So the fix that we're suggesting is the town still can split the baby and say, if it's on your property, you're responsible. If it's on our property, we're responsible. But this way, are updating the ordinance to reflect that you don't just need a trap at the end of the property line. There are other ways to figure out exactly where the breakdown is now. When this ordinance was originally codified, you didn't have that technological ability to definitively prove exactly where the breakdown was. Now we can. So since the town council seemed to indicate through this ordinance that they did want to take responsibility if they knew it was on their property, well, we're asking you to just update it so that it's not just a trap that can determine which side of the line it's on. You can use other technological means like if you camera the lateral. So if you can definitively prove it's not on your property and it's on the town's property, the town will take responsibility for it just like it would if you got a trap. So we're basically saying that the trap doesn't have to be the only way to see which side of the line it's on.
I have a question.
Do too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the Scotts, are they in the house now? Are they still out of the house?
Mr. Scott can probably speak to that. He is here tonight.
Michael Scott, 100 Collins Street, speaking on behalf of my
mother, Dorothy, who lives at 33 White Parkway, and she's been at my home since.
So she's out of the house
No, she said we can't use the house.
because of that. Then technically, if, according to the new ordinance, she wouldn't be responsible because there's no, unless she had a trap, right? You're saying if she had a trap, then beyond the trap, she would not be responsible for that.
So under the current ordinance, because she does not have a trap, she is responsible for the line for her house, from the house all the way to the main sewer line.
Right.
She's responsible for it all, under the street and everything.
So what I'm asking is, I mean, since they're out, they're out of the house, it's unlivable right now.
Correct.
Can't we get it fixed, and then we can argue after that who's responsible for fixing it, so we can get them back in their home?
No, the town council ordinance, well, I mean, you're the town council, you can do whatever you want, but the ordinance is very, very clear. The town council's ordinance, as it's currently written, says if there is no trap, the homeowner is completely responsible for the entirety of the line up to the main line.
Can you explain what a trap? Can you explain what a trap is?
So a trap is a vertical.
Visual aids.
Visual aids, there you go.
So I was a kid back in the 70s when the town put the sewer lines in, so I remember it pretty well. So the town came along and put the main sewer line down the middle of the street. That's the giant pipe. And off of that, they ran from a Y connection, if you see the language, Y connection. The
Yeah.
Y connection is right there where it connects to the main line. They ran a lower lateral pipe into your property. And they did that at every house on White Parkway, Summit Avenue, where we live. And then, the town dumped that stuff there, put a cap on it, excuse me, and gave the homeowner a certain period of time to connect, which everybody in the neighborhood did. And as Mr. O'Hara mentioned, most people use the same contractor. But Tommy McGee was at the sewer commission meeting, and he spoke about he and his father did a number of those as well. And that there was no code at that time to put the clean out in or the trap. So clean out or trap at the property line is a vertical pipe coming up.
Okay.
That prior to camera technology, if I called the city and said, I had a drain cleaner come and we couldn't get the line clear, it must be at your end. The town water and sewer department could come along, open that trap, run their cleaning tool down, and if they get all the way to the main with no problem, they would turn back to me and say, no, the problem's on your side. If they hit something, they would say, we hit something, we need to fix it. But apparently that trap wasn't in the code in 1981 when my parents connected, or Claire O'Hara, or Gene Peliquin, or a number of other people in the neighborhood. I'll drop all the names here. I don't think that was in the code then, and unfortunately I've asked for the code, and they went looking for it and found an empty file folder labeled Sewer Ordinance 1980, and the ordinance wasn't there. But I've got to assume, knowing that so many people don't have the trap, and that Mr. McGee came here and said, we never put traps in back in those days, that it wasn't in the ordinance originally. But then it went in for good reason, because it makes sense to have a trap at the property line. And unfortunately, when they amended the ordinance to make homeowners put that trap in, they also shifted responsibility on, they didn't grandfather in the previous people, they just shifted the responsibility to them. So when this incident occurred, I had a drain cleaner come out, we couldn't get it clean, and my assumption was, well, it's in the street, the town will take care of it. And then I got an education in sewer ordinance. And it's true, the water and sewer department's bound by the ordinance. And I came to appeal to the commission, and they were very generous with their time. I took far too much. But they were bound by the ordinance as well. And so it really is up to the town council to look at the ordinance and say, is there a way to grandfather in? And I think that they came up with a good solution of, now that we have the technology to show you where the problem is, it's in that lower lateral. And I would, just personally, from all the research I've been looking at, is that I don't know that property line per se should be the delineation. It's more the town should stand behind if the town's going to stand behind the work that the town and its contractor did, and the homeowner's going to stand behind the work that they and their contractor did. The separation then is, the pipe that the town left, that lower lateral it's called, that should be met. And it will be once we do the repair.
So I think it's important to explain this part. We're talking about the lower lateral and the upper homeowners. Lower lateral is what comes off the main sewer line that was put in by the city. On some of the properties, the lower lateral will actually extend into the homeowner's property, maybe a foot or 2 feet,
3 or 4.
or 3 or 4.
They just drop the pipe there, whatever length of pipe it was.
Yeah, so the reason we kept with property line is because that's how the rest of the ordinance is written, is with the property line as the point of demarcation. So to keep things simple and not rewrite the entire sewer ordinance, we stuck with property line, even though I do acknowledge that some of the property probably does have that lower lateral extending into the homeowner's property, but, I mean,
So, if I may, Madam President?
Yeah.
So basically, what we'll be doing, it's more of a preemptive type of thing, and we'll be providing uniformity to the future,
correct. What you
right? I
do
mean,
is
really, at this
basically
point, we'll make-
homeowners without a trap
right?
would be treated as, it's on the same level
Right.
playing field as homeowners with a trap.
Mhm.
So they basically be treated the same,
Mhm.
as long as the homeowner without the trap can conclusively prove that breakage is beyond their property
Right.
line. And with modern technology and the cameras that they have now, that's a pretty straightforward process.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we want our sewer department involved in being there and everything, but that's why we want to use the word conclusively proved. And then the second motion that we had made, because Mr. Scott brought this to our attention, was that if he needs to fix his property before this can go through the full approval process, that we would suggest that the town council reimburse him for digging up the street and fixing it, because if you were to approve this, it would show your intent that you agree that we should use modern technology to prove which side is on. So it would allow you to do something to help the homeowner, but in absence of the ordinance being changed, I felt like my hands were tied. I say this all the time in sewer commission meetings, adherence to the law is liberty. And a lot of times you find when you have heartbreaking situations like this, people want to say, well, let's just help the homeowner. Well, you help this one, but you help the next one, does a different town council treat different people differently? And you start to get on a slippery slope. So we thought it was important first to acknowledge what the ordinance that the town councils, previous town councils have all stuck with, and what our hands are tied by, request the change, acknowledge this homeowner's problem that they're having, and say that if you want to change it, I mean, you don't have to, you can throw in the pound sand and say, we like it the way it is, and then you wouldn't have to do anything. But if you see fit to change the ordinance to conform with the newer technologies and treat both types of homeowners the same, if you saw fit to do this, if he has to dig up the street, then we should reimburse him for digging up the street. That was the second part, but it's not binding on you guys, it's more of a suggestion.
So I have, if, Paula, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm just glad that we'll provide some uniformity, because I think the fact that, you're talking about different councils coming and different treatment, and it shouldn't be that way. Everyone should be treated equally. So as long as there's a very definitive way of identifying that, and they can determine conclusively that it is our responsibility, then it is our responsibility.
And that would level the playing fields
Yeah.
between the two types of owners
Right.
and reflect the fact that modern technology does allow us to do it. Back when the ordinance was adopted, that wasn't the case.
So
May I ask something, were most of the lines dug outside of the home? Mine, they went through my basement straight out because they didn't have to dig up the whole side and up the front. Would that include me in? Because I don't know too many people that went through their basement.
So you would be responsible for if you do not have it, as the ordinance is currently written, you would be responsible for the entire line up into the main line. So if you had a backup at your house right now, and it was in the street, but it wasn't on the main line, you'd be responsible for paying for digging up the entire street, fixing the sewer line, and then
Fixing
restoring
up
the
the
street to
street.
its previous condition. Fairly expensive process, probably.
Really?
Yeah.
It'd be cheaper to have outhouses at that point.
When I had to do it for my building in Providence, it was $20,000. And most of that was digging up the street. Oh, and hiring the police as, to stand there in the street and direct traffic. It's not a cheap process. That's why we recognized when this homeowner brought it to our attention, we clearly saw the town council, how they were
So my question is, I actually have two quick questions. So the first one is the reimbursement, that's the quicker one. So if we decide to go forward with the reimbursement, is this a case-by-case basis? If we do it once, do we have to do it for everybody going forward? I sympathize, but I just want to make sure that I ask that question, because I know it's been asked in the past.
Well, it would be case by case, but once you do that, I think you're basically committing yourself to correcting the ordinance as proposed, so it would be consistent going
Correct.
forward.
Okay, perfect. My other question is in the instance at the property line, you said sometimes, I think it was you, Mr. Scott, that the pipe extends, and the correct way to do it is to go where, I'm assuming I'm just gonna call it a connection point, where the lower and the upper meet. In the instance where that pipe that was left is 4 feet in on somebody's home, how do you make that? Is the changing of the ordinance for the property line, is that just like putting a Band-Aid on it and you could have people come up, or should we actually take the time to just revise the ordinance properly so we don't have to deal with the communication?
I don't think you have to do that, because
Okay.
you can connect an upper and lower, and cut back the lower to fit the upper. I don't think it's a major problem, and I'm not looking to rewrite the entire.
Yeah, it's okay. I just figured I'd ask, yeah.
This is something we can definitely look at going forward, but I do think this alleviates like 90% of the problem.
Okay, perfect.
And it does, it is in keeping with the spirit of what the town seems to have been trying to do with the ordinance in the first place. Like I said, I can't hit this hard enough. The town clearly looked to take responsibility in the street if you could prove that it was on town property. Back in the day, this was the only way to do it. Now Mr. Scott has, at least we thought, conclusively proved that this is beyond his property line where the sand is all dropped in.
Can I ask a quick question? It seems like you keep saying the technology nowadays, but that back then they didn't have the technology. But if you seems that if you send a 200-foot snake and then you hit the block at 200 feet, then you know what the blockage is.
That's not necessarily true. What if the snake gets coiled around the pipe in a certain way before it hits the
Ah.
pipe? Now you have the tips that actually send out a signal, and then you go down the pipe and you can actually tell where that signal is stopping. So it's different because the town homeowner, especially as you get closer to the property line, they could definitely argue about which side that was on. Like maybe the snake got coiled up, maybe it wrapped around itself.
Okay.
I had to have the drain cleaner out twice. The first time he came, he sent a 100-foot snake down the line and couldn't open it. So that's why I called the town, and there was still standing water in the pipe. The second time he came back, he used a different tool. He used a water jet, a glorified pressure washer, and managed to punch enough of a hole through in order to get the pipe to drain. And then once the pipe was drained, they could put a camera in to definitively see what was going on. And you know, the upper lateral, the pipe that my parents put in is a 4-inch PVC pipe, and you can clearly see the camera going down that. It's fine. There's not a tree root in sight, no problem. You see the coupling, I'll say at the property line. It might be 2 feet or 3 feet into the property, but you can clearly see the coupling in the video. And then about a foot after the coupling, the pipe is obliterated. They thought it looked like it had sand in it, but you couldn't see tree roots. You just really couldn't see much of anything. It's until somebody digs and gets to the bottom how the pipe failed. It could have been a tree root. It could just be that I had a septic tank pipe fail this summer. Not a tree root in sight. It's just the ground settled over the 50-some years the pipe's been there and the pipe broke. So, this neighborhood is one of the older parts of the system. I don't like being the person to sort of come here and say that this could be happening again in the future to people who maybe should have been grandfathered when the code was changed. But, that part of town, it's older pipes. There are bigger trees than they were back in 1980.
Just one more question for Mr. Dory. If the pipes were, if suppose there was a trap, and then we knew that the blockage was on the street side, the town side, we have a company specifically that would come and fix that? All right, so the town would fix that. So can't we, if we pass the first reading of this, we pass this, actually, it's an ordinance, so if we pass this, then can't we have the town fix it?
Once the solicitor comes up with
Yeah, once,
actual language.
right.
And you pass it.
And then if it doesn't pass, then he reimburse us, so we can get them back in their home?
That's up to you. That's not a sewer commission heartstrings or pulling for a fellow community member, what you do is you fix the ordinance and then fix their problem, because I guarantee you, with all the ordinances we have in this town, you're always gonna find somebody that runs afoul of it unmistakably, like they didn't know. And you're always gonna wanna change it for that person. But what about the next person down the line, and the next person?
Well, there won't be a next person because we're gonna change the ordinance, possibly.
Possible, but maybe the solicitor comes up with language that doesn't fix his problem, and you guys like that language better, so I'm very careful to say until you actually change the ordinance, I don't think you can, but that is also why we made that second motion suggesting that if you do change the ordinance to reflect what the commission thinks is correct, and he has fixed it, then you reimburse him. And that would be the only reimbursement I think you have to do, because this is the person that did it right now. And maybe you put a grandfather time limit on it, I don't know. Your solicitor is a very smart man to come up with that language, but I understand what we're trying to do. It just,
Well, only because it's gonna be cheaper for us to fix
Well-
it than it would be to reimburse, to have, say, Jeff Allard come in, I mean, not Jeff, but the Allards come in and fix the problem. It'd be cheaper for the town to do it instead of reimbursing him after the fact. That's what I'm thinking.
and I understand that perspective. I know what the ordinance, I know what the ordinance says. And the ordinance doesn't provide for that.
Well, I'm speaking as a person who lives in there, so I'm a resident. And there's at least 60 houses that it affects there. And when we weren't told, my septic was fine, but I was forced to do this. I had a septic and in an overrun, 80 feet, like, I'd have to have like a football team there 24/7 to have any problems. But what protects us? I would not hesitate a minute to help the Scots. Our kids grew up together. It still is a wonderful neighborhood. But it's getting to the point, like his mother and myself, we were forced to put in the system. The other one was working. This one's failed. What responsibility does the town have? You made us change.
Well, may I ask a question also? I think if we do move forward on this, that it'll alleviate a lot of this discussion, and then we can just have, again, the uniformity part of it is very important. If we are going to amend the language, I would ask that we put in language that is more broadly defined as to like cameras and things of that nature, so that we're not reinventing the wheel in another 5 years when there's a newer technology available. So some such wording that, gives a broader approach to the camera and/or the most, technologically advanced.
Just said conclusively proved. We
Okay.
didn't specify a technology
Okay.
on purpose, because
All right,
to your
good.
point,
Okay, great.
technology is always changing. I didn't want to say, and if the cameras aligned, so 15 years,
Right.
Mark Zuckerberg
And that's-
invented
right.
those robots that go down,
Yeah.
sonar or whatever.
Yeah.
So we just said conclusively prove it's not
Okay.
on their property. That's the way we were looking at it, because that allows for technological growth,
Mhm.
which this current ordinance, the current way it's written, didn't. It just said, you have to have the track.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Igliozzi, if we were to decide to, or vote to change the ordinance, would it be feasible to have it by the next meeting to
Only
vote on?
all it would be, the ordinance would be put in at the first meeting, cannot be acted on. You have to then schedule for a public hearing, second reading. So it's 2 meetings away, and so that's easy enough. But you wouldn't be able, my advice would be, maybe you should just separately and apart the next meeting, if the council votes to correct this ordinance, and you direct me to do that, that's coming in on December 19th. But I'd also put an agenda item on there that specifically says discussion, vote, or action on fixing this water line. With, not reimbursing, fixing the sewer line. Fixing the sewer line, because then that's consistent with your first reading and where you want to go with this. Because the reimbursement is going to get confusing, and we don't know how much that's going to cost, and if we ever find out from the department that they can do it for $5,000, $10,000 less internally, I don't know that to be the case. You need to find out that, and you clearly want to do it at a cheaper rate than reimbursement. And I don't think that the owner would care how it's done as long as it's done, and correct me if I'm wrong, the sooner the better.
I just had Mr. Allard come out today to look at it, and I don't have a quote back yet, but my concern was that if it's not going to be till January or February that the town could step in, that by then the ground is frozen, and now we're looking at March or April by the time, and I don't know that I can, it's not that I can't accommodate my mother in my house, it's just that her house needs to be a functional.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
My point, Mr. Council President, is the council could vote to do that on the 19th, regardless of the ordinance, just along with the ordinance.
So can I ask a quick question? So if you put both those items on the first, and then it fails, the ordinance fails for whatever reason.
Well, you can't vote on the ordinance.
Right, so shouldn't we wait to do the
Well,
construction until
You
we
could.
know it passed?
Yes, you could do that, you could do that. But I'm
Because I agree with, I was gonna ask, should we separate the reimbursement for a later date until we know if it's being fixed internally or if it's being reimbursed to the homeowner? But yeah, that was my only thing, is if you do both and you go forward with fixing it, but you don't you don't change the ordinance, then.
Yeah, but you can still put it on the agenda, and you just don't vote on it if it doesn't pass. This way here, we can get this going as soon as possible. As it is, you're already asking us to wait 2 weeks. Why can't, is it possible to vote on that tonight?
No, it's not on the agenda.
You don't have an ordinance either.
No. The only thing that's on the agenda is a request to adopt an ordinance, not the request for reimbursement. You don't even know what the reimbursement is.
So we need to.
You vote on an item you don't know.
So we would need to create the ordinance language, which is something you would craft. It would come to us on the 19th for first reading, and what you're proposing is to then also put on an agenda item, which most likely would have no action taken to fix the road,
Well,
or take action where you fix the road pending the passage of the ordinance.
Right.
And that would be through the town to fix it. So
Well,
we,
the solicitors also say
So,
you could just vote to fix it if you
Fix it,
want.
Right, yeah, that's it.
Regardless of what you do with the ordinance, you could say, yeah, we're gonna fix this homeowner's property no matter what. You can vote to do that. Your town council can do that.
right now,
The concern I had is you start
We can't
treating
do it right
homeowners
Yeah,
differently.
I'm not comfortable with that.
And I'm trying to be very
No.
careful.
Yeah, we can't do it now,
Stop
unfortunately.
doing that.
I'll just add, if I have to get a contractor out to start doing the work and find, I know that the problem is in the lower lateral somewhere. It could be in the property, just off the property, there's a sidewalk there, so we might be under the sidewalk, we might not reach the street. But as a homeowner, I'm gonna say, do what you have to repair it. And if he finds that the pipe is compromised there, the town might decide, as long as we're digging, we should replace that whole line, all the way to the main.
yeah.
I, as a homeowner, I'm just gonna replace as little as I can to get it
To get it
fixed.
going, right.
And then hope I can get reimbursed, but just in case I can't, I don't wanna be cutting pavement if I don't have to cut pavement. But the town may stand there and look at it and make a different decision based on the fact that in most of the, or in other parts of the town does maintain lower laterals as well as the sewer main. So, yeah, that's the part of it.
Okay. I was gonna suggest that, listening to this, that I'll have to speak with my superintendent tomorrow and address this cost-wise and so on and so forth. Time is of the essence here. We're getting into a very tough time for road construction. I basically don't give out permits to people after December 1st to cut into the roads unless it's an emergency situation. With that said, I'm not sure if something can be put together for an emergency meeting next Monday instead of waiting until the 19th. This motion that the solicitor has mentioned, just to get the approval to let us move forward. My department probably can fix it. If it comes to a situation where I'm advised that it's not fixable by my department, then we do hire a contractor, but that's at our cost. So I just don't think putting it off for 2 weeks is a good idea. I think that,
I agree.
I think if we can move it forward, and we're getting into the holiday season and in the cold weather, I would rather be digging before January 1st.
yeah, not to mention, you can't even live in your house, so,
Right.
Yeah.
that's just not acceptable.
That's the other thing, so.
Okay. Anything else that you wanna give us?
You guys get us some more members of the sewer commission, that'd be
We'll try.
I think you're doing a
tried.
great job.
Well, thank you for all this, a lot of backup to this. Anyone else have any more questions? Is there anything else you want to add before we're going in? No, you're all set? Okay. All right. Anyone like to make a motion?
So I'll make a motion. So I just want to ask, are we meeting next Monday?
We can do that after.
Or should we
you make the
separate
motion.
these? So I'll make a motion to have the solicitor draft an amendment to the 2009 sewer ordinance, section 829K.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. And could we do that for next Monday and schedule a meeting for next Monday? Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yeah, works for me.
Claire?
Absolutely.
Okay, so next Monday, we'll start
One
this.
item.
It's only first reading, so yes, I can definitely have a version of the first reading.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
And would there have to be a second, on that, no, not only a second reading, but would there have to be something, a second item on the agenda saying that if it does pass first reading, then we begin the process of getting the situation taken care of?
I think you're conflating the issues. I think
Yeah.
you're just getting that on Monday, and then I thought I said the director's still here. He's going to give us the estimated cost, and that agenda item is going to be his agenda item on Monday.
Mhm.
But it will be the second item on the agenda.
Yeah.
Second
correct.
item on the
That is
agenda.
two, but they're separated, I think.
All right.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So Joanne, we'll have 2 items on the agenda that Monday, next Monday, right? Okay. All right, so do we do a roll call?
Yeah, oh, for that
Roll
one.
call, please.
Yes.
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 And I want to leave you with this comment. When he called me, I said, we called your department right away, and you were very accommodating, and we made an appointment at that time, and then Mr. McGee joined you. I'm proud to say that the buck hasn't been passed in any department. Mr. Pendergast, whenever you can jump in and be accommodating, you're always there. And since we have sometimes not the best comments at one time, when you can say something good, please say it. It gives our workers a heart. It's nice to hear something good once in a while. And thank you. I just pray you don't have to come to my house.
I'll send right.
Oh.
So next week it'll be on the agenda, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item, discussion by council vote or other action on Old Aldrich burial grounds in the Old Town Burial Grounds. Mr. Keane?
Madam President, before Mr. Keene begins, I need to recuse myself from this discussion just because I serve as treasurer for the Heritage Association.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Rich King, 7 Danford Street. I'm the president of the North Smithfield.
I don't think it's on. It's not on, I don't think.
Is that, oh, okay, sorry. Rich Keene, 7 Bamford Street. I'm the president of the North Smithfield Heritage Association. I'm here tonight to ask you to take possession of an abandoned cemetery. Actually, it's 2 lots that Rhode Island General Laws provides this authority for you to do this. I provided the citation and the cover letter for our request tonight. I had a presentation that unfortunately we have some technical difficulties, so you folks in the audience will have to bear with me, but I think I did share it. Did I share it with you folks already? So you've had a chance to read it. So a little background and I'll explain why I'm asking you to do this as we get later into the presentation. So a little background. About 5 years ago, the volunteers from the Heritage Association went to the old Aldrich burial ground and the Old Town burial grounds. There are 2 lots. Each one is about an acre inside that abut the Union Cemetery. If you look at the plat map, the Union Cemetery owns all of the land on 3 sides of these 2 lots. The other side is bounded by Smithfield Road. So 5 years ago, we went in. The 2 lots had been abandoned for decades, and it was a jungle back there. You could drive by on Smithfield Road and not even realize that there was a cemetery there. There's about 200 or 250 burials in there. So we started cleaning it out. Over a period of time, took out all of the brush, the poison ivy, a lot of the trees, and in the last 2 years, our volunteers went out and got trained and learned how to repair broken gravestones because it was a jungle and there wasn't, you couldn't see. The kids could go in there and do whatever they wanted, and unfortunately, I'm blaming kids. But vandals went in, and there was serious damage to a lot of the gravestones. Since then, our volunteers have been able to repair a lot of them and are still in that process of doing that. We're about 90% done with the restoration there. So the problem that we're facing now is a lot of those trees are very old. They're starting to lose limbs, and it's presenting a hazard to the volunteers. If some of the pictures that are in the presentation show limbs that are laying on the ground, and some of them are this big. Some of them are even bigger over the past 5 years. Fortunately, nobody's been hurt. But we'd like to trim the dead branches to make it safer for our volunteers. The other problem is the amount of leaves. Because there's so many trees in there, there's a ton of leaves, and trying to move those things is a Herculean effort. It takes a lot of people, a lot of time every year to move them. And the equipment that we have, the blowers can only blow leaves so far, and then they pile up, and then we have to pick them up by hand and put them in pickup trucks and take them down to the dump site at the other end of the cemetery. The highway department has been terrific. Helping us with cemeteries, not only these 2, but there are 65 historic cemeteries in town. About a third of them are being maintained by the largest ones, the Union, Slatersville, and St. John's, of course, being taken care of by the 2 church, the church, the Slatersville burial ground over here, and the Union Burial Society over in Union Village, 2 nonprofits. Another third is being taken care of by our volunteers, not only these 2, which are the largest that we maintain, but also about another 15 abandoned cemeteries. And a third is being taken care of by property owners who happen the cemeteries are on their property, and they're taking care of them. And then there's another 15 or 20 that are just, we haven't had time to get to, and so they're abandoned, and we're trying to keep them from being overgrown again. But anyway, that's the problem. We need a little bit of help from the highway department to trim the trees, and they've got this vacuum unit on one of their dump trucks that can pick up a ton of leaves in no time. And so if they could come in and help us with that, that would be huge. And you know, this cemetery being on the side of Union, which is those folks do a great job keeping it looking immaculate. We want to keep these two lots looking the same way. It's high visibility. People, people from town are driving by all the time. So anyway, that's the problem. The problem is perception. Somebody may complain, hey, what's the town doing on private property? They shouldn't be doing that. So I mentioned in the presentation there's a couple of solutions. You could just say, hey, it's okay for the highway department to help out with the historic cemeteries. I kind of wish you would do that anyway, because that would help with the other cemeteries that we maintain as well. But for these two in particular, because they're so big, because it's almost like a park now. Actually, people come in and walk around with their dogs and whatever, which is fine. But this one, it would be nice if you folks could take possession, because people forget. Down the road, if you say it's okay to help out, you folks aren't going to be here forever. The administrator's not going to be here. Ray's not going to be here. I'm not going to be here. And what could happen is people forget, and then the place doesn't get taken care of, and then it reverts back to the jungle it was 5 years ago. By taking possession, now that the town owns it, and it's more likelihood for continuity well into the future. Back in 1992 or so, the town council did pass a resolution that the town would maintain the Cemetery 8, the Samuel Aldrich Cemetery, that's off of Old Pound Hill Road, sitting next to the Acres Wild Farm, sits up at the top of the hill. It's a small 20 by 20 cemetery, but people forgot, and that little cemetery turned into a jungle again. We had to go in 3 years ago and restore it. So, and so that speaks to my point about taking possession. And so that's what I'm here tonight asking you to do.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Liability for the town by
By state law,
taking possession?
yes, so state law provides protection from liability for volunteers who work in the cemeteries, as well as for property owners who allow volunteers to go in to work in there. So.
And what would be the expectation of DPW? Would it be on a regular basis that you'd want help, or just assistance occasionally?
Occasionally, right,
Okay.
right. And we have a great working relationship even with the properties that we maintain for the town. Hey, can you help us out? If you can, great. If not, we'll try to get by without it. And it's at their convenience, not ours. So there's no, you own it, you don't have to take care of it,
And you've already spoken with Mr. Pendergast?
We've had a discussion about it, and
Okay.
so actually I wanted to do this a couple of years ago, and I didn't really think that Mr. Pendergast would be in favor of it. And when I found out the other day that he was, well.
Surprise, surprise. Good, okay, thank you.
I just want to throw in, Rich will call me every now and then. It's not something that is a scheduled job. I have a hard time watching volunteers over the age of 60 and 70 lifting heavy equipment in some of these buildings. So we managed to do it on some of our downtime. I don't have a lot of downtime, but we do have some that comes up. In a situation like this, we're getting ready to put the truck away with the leaf sucker, and it's an opportunity where I can, maybe on a Friday, for a couple hours, bang it right out with a couple of people, and it's done. I would The liability question is a concern of mine. On any town property, I'd ask the finance director to run that through the trust to make sure we certainly are covered in the event that a volunteer or a worker is hurt. So I don't have a problem with it. He doesn't ask much. My crews love working for them because they get pizza. So he knows how to take care of my workers. So it works out. It's a good situation.
He's giving away your trade secrets. So I guess my only other question is, how do we know that no one owns it?
Yeah.
There's no owner of record. You look at the property card, there's at the tax assessor's office, there's no owner, and that's not unusual for these historic cemeteries. A lot of them don't have any owner of record. I actually spent a couple of days trying to research land evidence here in North Smithfield and back in Central Falls, and I wasn't able to find any deed for any owner. And Central Falls goes back to when the town was formed, and town of Smithfield was formed in 1732. So it leads me to believe that those cemeteries may have been part of the town of Providence back before the town of Smithfield was formed. And I just haven't had a chance to get down to Providence to.
So I have one quick question of the solicitor. So if that's the case where we have nothing on record, do we have to put a legal notice anywhere to ask anyone who's like going once, going twice?
Well, the statute just indicates with nobody objecting, I guess I would put an advertisement for the sake
Yeah.
of, if you're going to take possession, because you
Just
are
make
taking
sure.
possession under the statute.
Right.
I think we'd spend that money just to make sure a legal notice.
In the unlikely event that, there's a family member somewhere or someone and they say, well,
Again, it
whatever.
doesn't say that in the statute,
Right.
but I think that's a good practice to,
Mhm.
good.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, concern, I'm all for it, but what if somebody's not? What if somebody in the town that pays taxes and that's cleaning, they could care less about cleaning up historic cemeteries, and now we're gonna be sending our workers to clean up something, and they're not into it like you are and like I care about, and I don't know if that's really fair, I don't know.
So some towns have taken over all of the historic cemeteries. They've taken possession of all the cemeteries in the municipality, and they do all of the maintenance themselves. There's no volunteers or anything. So I don't think that what we're asking to do is unreasonable. I think most people, just judging on our own interaction with folks in the town, are very supportive of trying to preserve historic buildings, our heritage, but cemeteries, this is, we're trying to maintain the dignity of a burial ground. And, I'm not going to say that there's not going to be anybody, but I don't think there's going to be an uprising either. I think this is a pretty non-controversial issue.
So do you have any other pieces of property that you can foresee that you'd be requesting the same of us in the future?
No, I'm not going to say never, but no. I think these are the two, by far, two of the largest cemeteries that are outside of what's being maintained in town by other nonprofits. Our volunteers are very dedicated. We've got folks that, Paul Calamati, I'll call him out by name, he's well into his 70s. He's there every Tuesday for 3 or 4 hours, either weed whacking in the summertime or with the leaf blower in the fall, trying to keep the place looking good. That's the kind of people we have.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Anybody like to make a motion?
So I guess I'll make a motion that we approve the possession, taking the possession of, what is it? Plat 9, lots 410 and 411, known as the Aldrich Family Burial Ground and the North Smithfield Burial Ground. We show that tax records show no owners of record, and that we will place an ad in the newspaper to notify any potential owners prior to accepting.
Sounds good. Is there a second? Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm accused.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, and so is there any chance that is this going to be the final vote, or is it just pending an objection from the public, or do we? Is it,
I think you could make this final, just pending an advertisement. I don't think there's any reason to hold it up.
When do you think it would be advertised, Joanne?
I could probably get it out, it depends what paper you'd like it in, if the Valley Reads is okay.
Yeah.
Looks like the next Thursday.
So after next Thursday?
perfect.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Discussion by council vote or other action on review of zoning ordinance amendment, section 6.19, water supply protection overlay district. Mr. Biragad and Mr. Ogier. Mr. Ogier, did you want to take this one?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. So, so I just want to preference a couple things. So this is, there's no real action that can take place tonight, but the reason I wanted to put this on the agenda was after hearing from numerous residents, concerned residents in town, and, I appreciate Councilman Biragad's support on this matter. 2 years ago, the map and the ordinance were altered to this ordinance specific, and it was to my understanding, when going back and watching those films, was that the town had trouble reading the map, or the planning board had issues reading the map. There were projects waiting in the wings, some projects were taking longer, and that ultimately the council at the time approved the change on 11/2 of 2020. I know during that meeting, I had cautioned that, we should be thinking more long-term and potential impacts that could result down the line, and that, we could be creating a bigger problem if we don't slow down and some of these decisions aren't as well thought out, to even create a nightmare scenario for a future council, or that we would have to pick up a burden of misplanning, or that the town will have to handle. That evening, I was shocked that I was the only council member at the time to vote against those changes, and I'm still kind of shocked to this day that they were made. Most of those changes were impacting the industrial drive area, I believe Route 146, areas that, are heavily industrialized, have had issues with water quality in the past. And I would agree that revising those areas to where you've had substantial damage to an aquifer probably makes sense. Streamlining and cleaning up an ordinance where it's applicable. The thing that I had trouble supporting at the time was, there's no doubt in this town that we need commercial revenue to help ease the burden on the residential taxpayer. But the one thing I can't support, or ever support, is doing it at the expense of a homeowner's well-being, especially when the community has had a terrible track record when it comes to water quality issues. And that any revision didn't sit well with me then, and it still doesn't sit with me now. And I think we have an opportunity here to rectify any issues for future homeowners that have been negatively impacted by any changes. And I think we need to, really slow down, and, residents should never have to worry about if their water is safe, especially if they're drinking from a well. Not everyone is connected to town water, and I think everyone should, or hopefully would be in agreement that water is basically what you need to survive. And when the map was changed, like I said, it was quick, so I am going to default to the solicitor for input. But some of the things I would like to propose, and if we could do something on the next agenda, that would be awesome, is that I would like to see a moratorium put in place on any new project which sits over an aquifer recharge zone for the next 90 days, and if possible, to be extended as appropriate. And with this, I would like another comprehensive review of the impacts and changes made or proposed on any new ordinance that would be recrafted, similar to what we did with the solar ordinance a few years back as well. I mean, the slow moratorium and the ordinance that resulted as a result of that. And I would like to see the current map compared back to the prior map and put overlay EPA Superfund sites, industrial sites, businesses, you know, any area that could be impacted by any aquifer recharge zone as it's defined through DEM and EPA and, you know, town, state, local, whatever level you need to go to. There's also been questions I've heard over notification processes when these things have been changed, specifically to abutters. And I believe it's around 200 feet. If we could increase that, I don't know what the be, maybe a half a mile, maybe too much, but, you know, come up with some level that residents get notified, and 200 feet is not that far. And not just residents, but businesses as well, if there is a change that could potentially impact them as well. And then obviously the end goal of this would be have a change in the ordinance if needed with an updated map, but there would also be consultation from planning and if needed zoning or conservation, et cetera. And also that this should be done in collaboration with the business community as well as residents. And ultimately, this is about not making things harder. It's about a balance, and we need to make sure that things are done responsibly. But at the end of the day, if the residents can't trust it, that drinking water is safe, then it won't really matter because no business will, well, all businesses in that turn would be impacted. So we need to protect that basic resource. So that's kind of where my head was at it. I leave it up to the council to discuss further. But that's just kind of what I wanted to put out. I don't know if John has anything else he wants to add.
Well, I tend to agree. However, I do want to stress that I think water is very complicated, and how things work with the groundwater and how things work with the flow, and if it's on bedrock, if it's on soft sand or whatever. I think whatever decisions we make, we should bring in some kind of geological expert to explain to us. If we're saying, it's great, you know, it's important, water is the most important thing, okay? There's no question. But if we're going to say, yeah, we should expand the district over here and have a moratorium on building, we should have a professional tell us, well, either that, yeah, that's a great idea, or you know what, that's really not necessary, and let me explain why. Because it doesn't, when you have runoff, it doesn't really work the way everybody thinks it does. So we can't make, I'm all for going forward with this idea, but we should not go forward with the idea without the advice of an expert who can explain to us how the process works, what the groundwater is like. You know, sometimes if you take a look at some areas of the town, it's on softer ground, so the water, anything going through, sometimes some of them are on granite, some of them are on bedrock. We have to understand, we can't just say overlay district. We have to understand exactly when we say no to somebody, why we're saying no, and I think we should bring in an expert to explain to us the benefit. Yes, it's a good idea to do it here, not a good idea to do it here, instead of just having a knee-jerk reaction and saying, okay, no, all over the place, you know, we're going to expand this without the knowledge of really we're not the experts here, and we should bring somebody in for that.
And I'd agree with that. And I think also, too, if we are making a change, you know, there's some areas that, you know, maybe are more residential in nature, but businesses can go in there. You know, I know that there's exemptions in the current ordinance and not exemptions, and, you know, but maybe it's, you know, if there is, you know, the council ultimately decides in consultation with an expert that, you know, commercial development can go in there, maybe it's making sure that there's proper testing in place,
Exactly.
You know, other types of safeguards to allow residents the opportunity to know that it's just, these things aren't just done in a vacuum, that they know that the council and the town is looking out for them, has their best interest at heart, and, you know, we're being thoughtful about this process, so I agree. Yeah, that's it on mine.
So do we want to put any action for anything to be drawn up, or?
Madam President, if I understand one of the requests, and I think the first request was a 90-day moratorium
Or some time period, yeah.
on the.
On if you could, well, that's the question.
The existing
So could you do it,
description of the overlay zone.
so could you do it on how an overlay, like an aquifer in a recharge zone is defined, or does it need to be in accordance to the current ordinance?
Well, I think the question is, where are we gonna get that definition, right? Are we gonna get that definition from outside, an expert? Or you're asking for a moratorium on
Right, on any,
applications under your existing ordinance?
is that how it would normally,
Yeah, normally,
Yeah.
whenever you're trying to change an
looking to you for the
ordinance,
legal input.
You're entitled to put a moratorium, the Supreme Court has said, on an ordinance for a very specific period of time. You can't make it ad infinitum because you feel like there's a need. You're concerned about water quality, but I think we have to I think we need to identify more specifically, and I don't have the expertise, of whether if you were talking about the zone as it's described in the ordinance, I could do that for you for next meeting. But if you want to start expanding into some definition beyond what's already described, that theoretically is something you're thinking about trying to add or include, I don't have the
So maybe-
expertise to make that, to put that
So-
language in an ordinance. I need someone to give me that language.
So procedurally, it sounds like you would do it on the existing ordinance, which is the existing
That's
map.
one
And can you ever
alternative.
expand it if you were to get expert advice?
Right, if you wanted to make it a more expansive definition and not the ordinance definition, I would need you to give that, not you, but I would need that definition. I wouldn't want to take a shot at it.
Right, I agree. I don't want to set up
But
something
if-
that could be
But if you
challenging.
want to use the
Stop that.
existing ordinance, but I don't know if that accomplishes your goal, because anybody who's under the existing ordinance has to comply with the conditions of the ordinance. I mean, I don't know if that is really accomplishing what you're, I mean, we can do
Yeah, I mean,
that.
I've had enough residents reach out to me about water quality issues and, more so when the map was changed. I think there was some unintended consequences in some of the trade-offs that were made in terms of drawing and simplifying. And by all means, ordinances should be clear, they should be predictable and understanding for a business to come in. But I think some of the peripheral areas of that map being changed caused some headaches. And rightfully so, some issues in town. And, I heard a lot when I was campaigning, so that's why I figured I'd put it on here. Originally I thought it would be great if we could use the original map to place the moratorium on, but if we have to use the current map, that's just where my head was at with this, so.
If you want to do that, we can do that. But it does seem to me that what you really are going to need sooner than later is some advice from an expert in this area, whether it's a geologist, if that's the necessary. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm wondering if that is something the council should be acting on sooner than later. Because ultimately, that's what you're going to need, some expertise in the area of aquifers and
Right, yeah, I agree.
how these zones are created, and even historically why this one was created, right? Like, why were those lines drawn the way they were? I don't know if there's a record on that.
Mr. Ogier, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
A moratorium on what, though?
So if you have a residential property and it's zoned commercial and there's a business that wants to put in an application, that is on hold until we figure out if we need to if that is properly zoned, if maybe there was a need for commercial at the time, but it's really more residential, for us to kind of think about, okay, what is going on top of these areas and having impacts to it? Because, it could be the smallest thing, but, something leaks into the ground for a significant period of time that nobody thought about during a zoning meeting or during a planning board meeting, and now you've just over 30, 40 years. And I know there's a lot of new technology to remediate these issues, but is our ordinance reflecting the current day technology as well? Is it not? Are there any potential, I really want to make sure that a resident who lives in these areas, you go to some towns and they got watershed protection area signs, you visibly know even if you're visiting that town that you're in one of those zones. I don't even think anything like that exists here. And so I just really want to be comprehensive of it all to really make sure that we're doing the best thing for the resident and for the businesses at the same time. That they know, okay, well, this area is zoned a little more heavily, requires additional things. Not, well, you were going through it and now all of a sudden, we're going to put on additional requirements for you. That whole argument of they should be, a business or a resident should know what's expected of them in that area, and that ordinance should be uniformed, I think makes the most sense. So that's really what I'm getting at is, just kind of putting a pause on it so that the town can come up with the right ordinance with the right language, the map's clear, it's defined, it's been backed, as you said, by an expert, and we know going forward there's no confusion over it, and that we're doing the right thing when it comes to protecting all of the aquifers and recharge zones and water in this town.
So a moratorium on business applications.
Yeah, I guess if you had to ask for it, yeah, and even residential development, if it caused an impact. I don't know how many times that impacts it, but you could put business development if it's,
Do you want to put a moratorium on all applications?
just do all applications.
And that's in the zone?
I think it sounds like the way you'd have to do it is the zone as defined.
I wasn't thinking one way or the other, I'm asking, I guess. If you were gonna put a moratorium on all applications, all zoning and development applications in town for 90 days, if that's what you want to do,
So maybe what
that's a real impact on.
so maybe you do zone, so you maybe put a moratorium on any development over these zones as defined by the ordinance for 60 days. And then if, 60 days, and then if you get a, we should hire a hydrologist is what I think it is. And if it's determined that it needs to be longer with an expert's opinion, we extend it out if we need more time in crafting an updated ordinance. Because it would be conditional upon if somebody says you need more time or not.
We can definitely create a moratorium for the existing zone as defined. I wouldn't need any help on that. But I would give you 60 days to,
Because I think that's what we did with the solar ordinance. I think it was 60 days.
yeah, I think that's what it was.
But any applications that are already in, they're in. That's not,
Right. Yeah, that was the same thing with this, the solar
Right.
moratorium.
Does anyone want to have any input in this? Gary?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to open up this agenda item to public comment.
Second.
Yes.
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 Gary Zofsky, 88 North Main Street. First, Mr. Ozier, I have to comment that the idea that the changes to that groundwater protection overlay map that were made back in 2020 were made carelessly or in some haste is unfair at best. You know, I'm only a resident. I do have some prior experience. I also am qualified as an expert in groundwater resources. Have been, I'm a professional engineer, practiced in the field for 20 years, been active in correcting some of the state's most challenging projects as it relates to gasoline releases, including one or more here in town. You know, I voiced concern about the overlay protection ordinance the day that it was adopted, or prior to it being adopted, because I've also spent a lot of time trying to achieve regulatory issues that are balanced and fair to the point that business and environment, tax revenue, and people can all manage life together sensibly and safely. I'm proud of what I've done in that area, both as it relates to regulatory issues and professionally. These are not simple concepts. You know, I hear the term aquifer, and you know, we have a huge aquifer, and the vision seems to be that people think that there's water everywhere, that, you know, in millions of gallons that we can draw out of the ground today and forever. That's not true. I mean, on the other hand, I have also said that, you know, North Smithfield, we're not Barrington or East Greenwich, we're also not, you know, destitute, but if we are wealthy in any area, it is in terms of water resource. It's been known for decades that the town of North Smithfield includes an area that has the potential to, and these aren't my words, this is USGS, that has the potential to produce 5 million gallons of water every day forever under current environmental conditions. That doesn't mean that you can put a well in right here and get 1 million gallons a day out of it. I would venture to say, quite certainly, you cannot. Because in this area, you're going to find that bedrock is very shallow, and high-volume wells do not come from bedrock in New England. Maybe out in the west, where there's sandstone that have higher storage coefficients, yes. But here in New England, the storage coefficient for the rock that we have, the rock doesn't store any water. The only water that exists in the rock is in the fractures in the rock. That's why your well driller ends up having to go down 600 feet trying to find a crack that can produce some water. And the further they go, the less they get because of the overburden pressure that's on that rock. What you want, or where you will find substantial amounts of water and high storage, is in deep gravel deposits coarse sand deposits, I should say. And we do have that in North Smithfield. The problem that we have gotten into is that when, in some ways, I think this overlay ordinance exists as a reaction to the creation of Dowling Village, which was going to kill us all. Well, maybe that's careless, I'm sorry. Which was going to be a burden to us all. We went, in a direction that we didn't need to go. And we imposed burden on businesses that have been great to this town, including everyone in our business park, our Commerce Park, which is wrong. There was nothing to protect. I mean, at one end of that area, you've got the Stamina Mill, which is a Superfund site. At the other end, fortunately, we have a long-gone enterprise that is one of the most admirable, environmentally anyway, corporate citizens that continues to spend millions of dollars cleaning up a mistake that unfortunately happened back in the 1960s. They're still there cleaning it up and doing what they can to do it. But we've got two anchors in that area that would say that the Board of Health will never allow you to put, and I mean never allow you to put a high production well in that area. It just, first of all, I don't think the geology is there to do it, but beyond that, you'll never get it to happen. But we put a burden on our businesses in that park with this comfort of an overlay that they didn't need. Those businesses and we are already protected by federal law and state law. We can do what we need to do perhaps to identify areas of high enforcement zones if we like, and maybe work with our local emergency planning or make our local emergency planning commission committee more active, because I don't think it is, where that's a health and safety circumstance that could make sure that our fire department knows where every ounce of hazardous material exists in a business and how it's being handled, to be able to protect them in the event that they have to respond to a fire, and thereby protect our environment and the groundwater below it, if, for all other reasons. So we went into a circumstance, we created this overlay, and now what's happening is this overlay is being interpreted as being there to protect every individual well. Well, if you read the ordinance, the well, or the GAA area, is defined by DEM and in our ordinance as the state's major stratified drift aquifers that are capable of serving as a significant source of public water supply, quote, groundwater reservoirs, and a critical portion of their recharge areas as designated by DEM. What we're talking about there is high volume water production, not my well or yours. High volume. The things that are critical to the region. And what we've done is taken the protections that are necessary for a well of that type, that's not going to be anywhere near some specific cases, and raising the level of protection to one that all we're doing is creating a burden. We're not creating a benefit. We can maybe make some people feel better. That's doing no one any good in reality. So I just caution as you do this, I commend the recognition that we as a community need expert advice on how to manage this. The idea that our manufacturing zones, maybe we need to change the zoning ordinance to say we don't want that as a manufacturing zone anymore. Maybe we should change our, with the language of this ordinance, we would do the same with our industrial park, which is not smart at all. I mean, if anything, we need more of the kind of businesses that we have in our industrial park in this community, not less. And we need to help them be able to find the right way to compliance and create the right rules so that they succeed and we succeed together. We in 2020, through work with the planning board and the planner, removed 2 sections from that ordinance with recognition that they are in manufacturing zones. Zoning is important to do with consideration to what we want in the future. It's also important to do with consideration to what we have now. So, I urge caution. You know, we also, as a community, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, spent a lot of money to research water resources in town. And my recall is it's probably $250,000 to $300,000. There are voluminous documents about where water is available in North Smithfield, available to the administration and therefore to you, that I encourage people in authority to look for and to read and recognize that, you know, I had basis, if we go back far enough, I don't know if there are records, but I advocated at the time that this ordinance was, this overlay district was contemplated, that the area west of Route 5 be advocated, or a portion of the area to the west of Route 5 be included in the overlay. Sensible, reasonable, smart. Everything else, you know, DEM drew lines back in the 70s, GA, GAA, GA, GB, GC, well, not GC, but GB anyway, based on my understanding, development to that point, that they were actually drawing the lines. Woonsocket, as a high-density community, was assumed to be a GB area, most, if not all, of the city. Just not because of anything that happened in particular, not any releases, not any, you know, particular compounds or anything, just simply a circumstance of it's highly developed. There's going to be urban fill, there's going to be, you know, manufacturing facilities. It's going to be an area where groundwater should not be expected to be consumable without treatment. Draw the line right around it. We abut that area. If those lines were drawn today with the same criteria, our business park would certainly be in the GB, based on what I talked about with the 2 anchor points of issues in our industrial park. It wouldn't be GA or GAA. No way. It would be GB, if not, well, the Stamina Mill, maybe GC, I don't know. So, you know, the lines were, I won't say they were arbitrary, but they weren't scientific to the level that we're trying to regulate at a level with some pinpoint accuracy over something that you can't do in this, the way that you're doing it is, I guess, the way that I have to conclude. I just urge you to, you know, I think what was done in 2020 was prudent. I think the overlay district in itself is an overreach that is, provides little to no benefit to the community whatsoever. We have a good zoning ordinance. If there are issues that where people want to see trees continue to stay up across the street, then look at it in the zoning ordinance, because that's where it really comes down, and deal with it there. Because trying to use something that people can't see and many won't understand as a means to say we're not going to do this is, you know, is not good business. Thank you for listening.
Anybody else want to come up?
Good evening. Gail Burlinghoff, 21 Bruce Drive. You've seen me, not this group before, but I've been in front of the town council. When I heard about the zoning section 6.19 water supply protection overlay district, I was into clean water before that. But now when I heard about this, it made me even more aware of what North Smithfield has for, you know, they have their water, and I have my well. And I want to protect that. And if we can keep these manufacturing businesses in town, but hold them to a higher standard, that they have to protect our water, even though they have hazardous materials in their building, I don't believe, and this is my opinion, I don't believe that one building inspector can take care of the solar overlay district, the water overlay district, and also these, you know, there's so many solar, there's so many things that you have to do with BMPs, with all these companies that are coming in. I really don't think that one person can do the whole job for this town. The town is growing. I believe if you do have the businesses come in over the overlay district, then they do have to be under some certain criteria, just to protect our water. So that is what I want to say, and hopefully I don't have to come back in 2023. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. So we're moving forward. Solicitor, you're going to come back with something?
I'll present the council a draft. Now, you're talking about the 19th meeting, right, not Monday?
Correct, I think that makes sense, right?
Is
The
that correct?
19th, yep.
And then that'll be on the agenda for consideration?
Correct.
It'll be a moratorium?
And I just want a preference, if it's not closed. You know, this isn't a knee-jerk reaction. You know, a lot of time, I've heard that a lot over the years, that, you know, a decision is made and we go 180 degrees the other way. There may be nothing that comes of this. There may be no changes. There very well could be changes. But, you know, as the former administrator just even said, like, it could be like identifying like how are businesses reporting what hazardous material are being stored in their facilities? Who's overseeing that? You know, are those things being, it's strengthening and tightening in areas where it needs to be strengthened and tightened to ensure that everybody's well-being. And the definition and how you view it, and we may agree to disagree all day on that, but in my eyes, we owe an obligation to residents who live near or in those zones to protect their wells as well. You know, so that's just why I'm leaving it at that. It's just meant to really just kind of make sure we're not missing anything, especially as the times have changed.
All right, thank you. Discussion by council vote or other action on proposal for North Smithfield Police Department IT managed service.
Close the open.
Oh, can I have a,
I'll make a motion to close the open discussion.
is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on proposal for North Smithfield Police Department IT managed services agreement renewal. Chief Lafferty?
I would like to speak on Chief Lafferty's. This is actually an extension of a contract. It's for the second year. Chief Lafferty is very happy with Apex's services, so he's requesting to extend the contract for another year. The cost is about $800 more a month, but they were using those hours in place. I guess the contract is for 2 hours weekly in service, in-house. And he upped it to 4 hours, and they were using it anyway, so they were getting charged extra for those hours, so he just kind of put it in the contract. The contract is, it abides by their budget, so there's no, there won't be any instances where they'll go over the budget in any way for this IT service, but Chief Lafferty just asked me to tell you all that he's very happy with Apex's services. He's asking for your permission to have the town administrator sign for the new contract.
Can I ask a quick question? Will they need any additional IT services other than this company, or is this comprehensive enough?
It's,
This is it? Okay, thank you.
yes.
Any other questions?
Just to reiterate what the finance director discussed, there's once a week 4-hour block of time. They will come into the station to address anything, to take a look at the servers. There's 22 computers in there. Just basic, not basic, it's maintenance, and a lot of this stuff can be done remotely. So Apex is used by a number of municipalities now. They're well, they've got a great reputation. So hopefully the council will consider this.
So they come in, they're physically in the building 4 hours per week, every week?
Yes, set day, I believe right now it's Tuesday, hang on, it's on page, it's on one of the pages, 4-hour block of on-site support per week. They'll come on-site for 4 hours, which
Oh, yeah, Tuesday
in itself
mornings.
is very
Yeah.
expensive. So this is a reasonable IT contract. It's, I wouldn't say that it's just very reasonably geared at police departments to give them the best service possible.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
It's a 12-month agreement. When does it begin? Is it 1/1 or is it 11/1? Is it fiscal year? Calendar year?
It's calendar year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Didn't see it.
Okay. I have just one quick question. So there's no early termination fee, right? So if they need to get out for some reason, they're dissatisfied, so there's nothing that would prevent them from...
Did not see any early
Yeah, I don't
termination
think
fee
there
on
is
it.
one. No, no.
But the way the chief speaks about them, I don't see them terminating it sooner than the 1-year contract.
Well, there is, if you want to look on the last page.
There's a 30-day notice, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
30-day notice,
Yep,
last
okay.
page, I'll
Good.
count the bullet points down.
Okay,
But there's no fee for it.
right.
Yeah, no early termination
No.
penalty or payment.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the IT managed services with Apex Technology Group for the police department in the amount of, yes,
Monthly is $3,210,
Right.
for the year it will be $38,520.
okay, and the amount for an annual fee of $38,520.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on appointments of town council. 1, the town solicitor, 2, assistant town solicitor, probate court judge, municipal court clerk administrator, veterans advisor, senior citizen advocate.
Madam President?
Yes.
I would like to nominate David Igliozzi to continue his role as town solicitor.
I'm going to second for discussion. I just want to bring out the fact, and it has nothing to do with job performance or anything. I think the last time we actually interviewed any solicitors or any legal advisors to town, I think it was back in 2014. When I was on the council then, we took applications and we interviewed people and just kind of got a feeling of what was out there or what firms were offering. So I just want to kind of go out and like I said, this has nothing to do with job performance. I mean, it could be just that we welcome everyone back in who's here, but I mean, it's been 9 years or 8 years, so I just think it might be time just to see who would apply or what the offerings are. That's just my thought.
Madam President?
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with you. When you have someone who's done as an outstanding job, been accessible at all times, you keep something that is not broken and has been functioning at this high standard.
Like I said, I don't disagree with the work ethic and what has been given. I'm just saying it's been 8 or 9 years, and I mean, and I know that David's not taking this personally, it's just, this is what, it's been 9 years, so it might just be time to just put out, I don't know if it'd be an RFQ or an RFP to have people interview, and we can just kind of see what comes to the table, that's all.
and I think also, I'm sorry, Doug, just that we're a new council, and I think it's important that we do our due diligence, so I would be in favor of doing that as well.
Well, back in 2016, we did go out and look at the possibility of hiring a firm, And the amount of money that you're gonna spend with a firm, every time you pick up the phone, it's gonna cost money. Every time you ask them to look into something, it's gonna cost money. Mr. Igliozzi does not charge the town for the hundreds, literally hundreds of hours a year that he gives of his own personal time, where he could be doing that as beyond the scope of his contract. But you can call up David on weekends, you can call him up any time of the night, and he's always right there. He always returns his phone calls. You're not gonna get that kind of response from a firm, or, and from what I understand, I have a lot of friends that are on different town councils, and I tell them how good our solicitor is, and the things that he does for us, and you're not gonna get that from other towns. Don't have the same experience as we do with our solicitor.
And I totally agree. I mean, David always answers, he's always responding, and like I said, it has nothing to do with job performance. All I'm saying is, it's been 8 or 9 years, and I just think it's a new council, and we should make it so that we are looking and to make sure that we're doing the right thing moving forward, that's all. I don't think it would hurt just to have people come in and we just speak to people, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. Can I say something if you're done? So, I know in 2018, I believe that council, we also did the same thing. It sounds like it's happened every few years. And, I think if that's the route that the council wants to go down, I think of it almost as like succession planning. Like if David all of a sudden woke up and, Steve all of a sudden woke up and was like, you know what, I don't want to do it. At least the town is doing its prudent thing and seeing, okay, what are the resources? Because I'm a big believer of we shouldn't have a lapse in legal counsel. That we should, for the continuity of things, especially with ongoing cases. I do agree David spends a ton of time. I know he's always called me back very quickly. And I would say that if we do go out, it needs to be almost a one-to-one comparison of how many hours David puts in and he could potentially bill us for, and same with Steve. And also too, how much these other companies would put up, because, they do all bill by bill. I'm not an attorney, but I know they bill by billable hours, and every time you pick up the phone, they're probably charging you to the nearest hour. So I just think to make it comparable, that's the way we have to look at it. My only questions was, in reviewing the agreement, was I know that, David, you represent to serve the town, and that's the council and the administrator and everybody. Is there any other conflicts that could arise? Like if you say, I'm just making up a scenario, like you advise the administrator on one thing, and then I would hope that you would advise everybody the same, but you ever advise a member on the council a different way or whatnot? Could you ever have to recuse yourself, or like, would you ever represent one side? I know that's just the only thing I have is just.
No, if the council was in some sort of, the council is the employment body, and then anyone below the council, whether it's the administrator or anybody else in town, are subservient to the council.
Okay.
So that's the client and the council body.
Oh, that's what I
So
thought.
that
So I
would be a
figured.
letter to that person that they would need to get outside counsel.
Okay, perfect. And so
Not the other way around.
So when it says all invoices go through the administration, I'm assuming that's just through the finance director for payment? Okay, perfect.
I'd like to also point out, when you have a good mechanic, do you say, oh, you know what, my mechanic's been serving us great for on every vehicle I've ever had, but you know what, I've had the mechanic for about 10 years, so I think I'm gonna go looking for another mechanic. Or if you have a doctor, and your doctor's been doing a great job, and you love your doctor, but you say, I've had the doctor since I was 22 years old. I think I'm gonna start looking for another doctor, or hear what other doctors have to say. We got a successful solicitor, everybody's happy with him. It doesn't make any sense that you're saying that, I'm really happy with the solicitor, but maybe it's time that we look around. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
No, it
because
doesn't.
You have to always be looking to see what else. I mean, we don't know what other communities are charging or are being charged. We don't know what other communities are getting for their services. And this is nothing against you, David. I'm just saying, we should be doing our due diligence to just see what else that maybe, I don't know, we don't know until we know.
Well,
And you can use the comparison, a good doctor, a good mechanic, but I think that's a little bit different than what we're talking about here.
well, I'm going to give an example as lawyers. Someone wants to go corporate. We look back on my first term, and it was put forth, even in the second year, that we were getting a lot for, well, a lot for our money. He's well-versed, never any question about where things came from, very forward. Even after surgery, he was like hopping around, he was here. He was always here. So we're gonna reward a person who's given us top-notch performance and say, wait around because we're gonna see if there's any, maybe someone younger, someone cheaper.
Well, I don't think we're saying that at all.
No,
I think what we're saying, and these are professional individuals, this happens all the time in every single facet of life where you do something to protect the people you have been elected to serve. We're gonna look. We ask them to resubmit their applications, and there may be no changes. That's it.
Well, we have a motion and a second. I'd like to hear a vote on this.
I would also.
Roll call.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
No.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
No.
What's the vote?
Yes, the vote's
3-2,
yes.
Right? Just want to make sure I heard correct.
Okay.
Congratulations, Mr. Igliosi. You have to put
Make
up
a-
with us for another 2 years.
I'd like to make a motion, or would you like to make the motion?
For what?
To,
I'd like,
Appoint.
the assistant, I would like to make, thank you. I would like to make a motion to appoint the current Assistant Town Solicitor, Mr. Stephen Archambault, for reappointment.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion. Stephen, I know you were the assistant solicitor when I was on the council in 2018. So your terms of the engagement, there was just a cover letter, and there was no other backup. Is it primarily zoning and filling in for David if he's not available? Like, do you guys work in more consultation that maybe we don't know about? Just want to make sure my understanding is correct.
David and I can interchange on all aspects. I can represent the council here tonight, I can handle planning, I can handle zoning. I do criminal and zoning, I think it's been 12 years with the town, so.
Okay.
But every aspect of what we do in the municipal experience, we can interchange on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam President, Mayor?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Archambault, I was at the zoning meeting for the project, the Central Ave, and I gotta say, I could not have been more impressed with you. I thought you were spot on in the way you handled yourself during all that, the way you gave instruction, you were very deliberate and very clear and concise. So I never really went to a lot of meetings where you were, you know, sitting in as assistant solicitor, and I gotta say, I thought I was very impressed.
Thank you very much, Mr. It can be challenging at times.
I understand.
say what you. As a point of order, we have no motion at this
Oh, then we'll
point.
make a motion.
No, you didn't make a motion, did you?
May I ask?
I made a motion, there was no second, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry,
No, there was,
seconded.
I thought there was a second.
Yeah,
Was there a
I
second?
did.
And then I said discussion.
Oh, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
That's how we
well,
ended up here.
I will have to follow this because
That's fine, that's fine.
my question pertains to the previous vote, and I just want clarification, but, okay, so let us
No, it gets confusing sometimes.
continue. Let us continue then. Sorry for that, sir.
So are we still in discussion?
Yes.
I'm good, thank you.
Are we still in discussion?
We are, but we
Yeah.
can end it.
And I'm just gonna say the same thing, I just would like to receive other applications and just see what we have, that's all.
The only other thing that's in here that is not on any of these that's not addressed is the time at which the council should be notified of any issues. And I know I've spoken to David about this. It's very vague, so I think, you know, the way things are going tonight, I think we need to put some timeline in here in terms of when the council gets apprised of any
Absolutely.
information. so that it can adjust accordingly if needed. In case it decides to go a whole different way, I mean, that's up to the council, but, you know, I think that should be on the council's decision to make those decisions. And so that's just kind of where I'm thinking of that as well.
Are we, our hands held when we're working with the trust?
I'm talking separate issues. I
Okay.
don't want to get into any,
No, I'm
anything
just
going
saying,
on, I
we
mean-
have the trust to protect everyone in town. I'm just wondering, it could be fall and break, whatever. I just want to know our hands held because they're the ones that represent the town. And they may have guidelines. No guidelines with them? No. Fine.
that's all I have.
So can we make motions?
I think we're already in the motion, right? Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second, is that what we have?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
No.
Thank you for all your hard work, gentlemen.
If I may, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. I don't take anything personally.
No, I mean, you know what I'm
I
saying.
think you beg my pardon. I have 2 trials for you tomorrow morning. 30 cases that I have to prep for towns that are a lot of work, and I had a trial all day today. So if you don't mind, I don't want to see you lose, but I'm going home to eat and prep cases.
Have a
Thank you
good
very
night.
much.
Have a good night.
And I don't bill by the hour for anything. Call me anytime.
Appreciate that.
Thank you and God bless.
I'm sorry?
Make sure you get that on record.
Oh, it is. This is a recorded meeting. If I may, Madam President, I do want to point out, I know this, I know we're not under an agenda item, but in the solicitor's agreement, which I'm assuming also follows the assistant solicitor's agreement, that at any point in time, the council can request review and consideration of modification of the terms of his or her contract at any time by request by either party. So at any point, I think if David, as David understands, like if you're unhappy with your legal representation at any time, that would allow us the opportunity to go out and seek external opinions as well. And he knows that that can happen because it's in his own agreement. So I just wanted to point that out there, that it was in his agreement as well.
And once again, this isn't on job performance at all. I mean, we go back, I mean, I think I put you on 8 years ago, so it has nothing to do with that at all, no matter what people are reading into. All right, so the next one would be probate court judge.
Mr. Ross?
It's just this application, right, Mr.
Yeah.
Rossi?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Rossi, is that his name?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi to probate court judge.
Second that motion?
Is there a second?
I did second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Municipal court judge?
Madam President,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to nominate Mr. Aram Jarrett to remain in his position as municipal court judge.
Second the motion?
Any discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No. Municipal clerk administrator?
I don't think we have it up.
Is that still the Chipita? Is it Chipita? Oh, I'm sorry.
There she is.
we don't have anything in the packet on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's your last name, Tafita? I can't hear, sorry. Yeah. Alan, okay, thank you.
It's a first name that needs no last name. Like Madonna, right?
Okay, so municipal clerk administrator. Anyone like to make a motion?
Madam President,
Mhm.
I would like to nominate Tafita Allen.
Second motion?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Do we have a veterans advisor, or no? Not at this moment? Okay, so we'll table that. And the senior citizen advocate?
She did express interest in it, but we do not have an application for it.
All right, so why don't we just wait to make sure
Yeah.
she's gonna do that? Okay. All right, discussion by council vote or other action on appointments to town boards / commissions. Joanne, were these advertised, or?
No.
Some of them are advertised, not all of them. We've had a constant ad on the newsletter,
And the gallery breeze.
the website, saying that
But
And,
that doesn't qualify as advertisement, or does it?
we do not have an advertisement in the actual newspaper.
So we have to hold what for?
I don't think we have to hold off. I don't think there's any statute or legal requirement to holding off to filling a board or a commission. It's never been the case in the past. I would think that it would make sense to put something in writing. I think,
Yeah,
Councilman
probably-
Burgott brought that up at one point, but.
Yeah, it'd probably be good to, if we did advertise, can we do like a banner on our website or anything?
We have.
You do?
The open seats, there may be a few new ones that we've just received resignations, but other than that, we can go and update it
Yeah.
and put an ad in the paper.
I know,
Well, I
I'm
think
sorry.
given the number of people we have that are interested in serving and the number of vacancies we have, we should be honoring those people who have stepped up right now and saying that they're,
I mean, especially the ones that want to be reappointed.
Right.
I agree.
But is it in the weekly newsletter, like every one,
Weeks
every
and weeks.
position?
yeah.
it's a little link you can click on. Correct me if I'm wrong, listen, I don't want to overstep.
When I go to boards and, homepage, go to boards and commissions, you click on it, there is a tremendous amount of information, from who's appointed when,
Yep.
how much time's left in their tenure, and whose time has lapsed. Few of those that the TA's appointments, folks have, time has lapsed, but you'll see that they've applied, they want to be reappointed. I'm ready to move forward and make
Good.
those appointments tonight.
Good, me too.
So what about like the blast that you do for a newsletter? Could you just do a separate blast of just open positions in the town of Smithfield, just so like that doesn't get overlooked in the newsletter?
We can. May I make a suggestion that you go to a newspaper of general circulation, whether it be, Valley Breeze is the second largest hard copy publication. Whether
Right, but
they're
I'm
all.
saying in addition to,
Sure, yeah, we would be happy to use the town webs and continue to do it. But it would, after tonight, that'll be updated. It may take the town's clerk a day or two to update it. We'll get it out there.
all right.
Can you use your, can you
Yes.
use your mic? Can you use the mic, please, because we want to make sure we capture it. Thank you.
Yeah, so if we could advertise also, that would be great.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so do you want to start? So Asset Management Commission, there's a completion of a 5-year term that would expire on 11/30/2026, and also a 5-year term that would expire on 11/30/2027. There's no one, so we'll just table that one for now. Board of Assessment Review. There's a 3-year term that would expire on 11/30/2025. And there is looking for someone to be reappointed.
Yeah, Jeffrey Fontaine.
Does anyone want to make a motion, or?
Make a motion to appoint Jeffrey Fontaine to the Board of Assessment Review for a 3-year term expiring 11/30/2025.
Second that motion.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Budget Committee, there's a completion of a 3-year term that would expire 11/30/2023, and a 3-year term that would expire 11/30/2025.
Madam President, I nominate Alfred S. Pachetti, for the term expiring 11/30/2025.
That's a motion. Any second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
This is unrelated to this, but it's related to this, if that makes any sense. The application process for these, and stop me if I'm going off track and I need to talk about it after. But I know right now you have to print off, like we have an actual physical application from Alfred. So I know a lot of times you have to print this thing out, drop it off, or email it, et cetera. Can the town do anything electronic? Can we do a Google Doc? Can we do something where you could upload? To make it easier, as we're blasting it out, to saying, here's the application, go on. I can tell you right now, not a lot of people are gonna go on. I mean, there's a reason why Amazon autofills everything in for you when you go to pay. It just makes it easier. So if we have a way to streamline and make it electronic, I think we might have a better chance of catching people that can do it from their phone as they see it, et cetera.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, in fact, I've talked about it with the town clerk, and we don't have the ability at this point, I believe, on our system to have a fillable form. But I don't know, I mean, there are people that don't even have printers anymore, so to ask someone to download something, print it out, fill it out, fold it up, go to the post office, put a stamp on it. I mean, we're asking a lot of people if they could just electronically, as Mr. Roche was saying, and that's great.
So we are looking into that. We've made some phone calls, and we're going to see if we can try to get that put in as a fillable application. So we can keep you informed on that. If anyone has any other ideas, help us out, but that's what we're looking for right now, fillable application.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My only other question is if we wanted to have a council liaison to the budget committee, how would we do that?
You just,
Does it need to be formal, I guess?
no. No, you would just,
I'm interested in doing it, that's why I didn't know if it had to be formal or not.
We had the council president at one time, so
Okay.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go to the meeting.
no,
I
it was
just
just,
didn't
it was
know.
just,
I
I said,
nominate you.
I know on some we do and some we don't, so I just wasn't sure if it was
No,
a
I'm just saying,
consistency
I don't
thing
know
or
how she
not.
became it, though.
I just said I was.
She self-nominated.
Yeah. I really don't know.
Yeah, no,
how
it
happened.
would just be that Doug would say he is gonna be the liaison for that.
Okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
Because I know one of the things I would like to do at the budget committee is have a joint meeting in January with them, if we can fill the seats.
Council's back, if you can recall, Madam President. I'll just turn off and speak loud, is that okay? Carl, you picking me up over there? Okay, so, councils ago, we had liaisons, we established council members, where their passion lied, where their expertise lied, and that's how it came about. I know that council president, was it you, Kim, that was the liaison to finance? Yeah, and going off memory, I was with planning and zoning, and some other people did conservation, so that'll be up to council. You council members figure out where you want to go with that. Do you want to have liaisons?
Talk about it later.
Because you want it. So we have a motion and a second for Al Pachetti, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Conservation Commission, completion of a 3-year term that will expire on 11/30/2023, and a 3-year term that will expire on 11/30/2025. Oh, this is your appointment.
So council members, you see that two would like to return. Kayla Massey, is my appointment for her to serve off the 3-year term, which will expire November 30th, 2023. That's the first one. And the second one I'm going to appoint is Mr. Jonathan Default for a 3-year term, which will continue right up until November 30th, 2025. Those are the two nominations. Well, those are my two appointments.
Do we have to approve those? We have to roll call those? Those are motions. Any seconds?
Second.
So just discussion, we're approving both at the same time?
We can approve both at the same time.
It's fine with me, it doesn't, I don't need to do it.
I don't see why not. It's on record. It's on.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure I know what I'm voting for, that's all.
But if you feel better, we can do them separately.
No, I'm fine with doing it together, it's fine with me.
All right, so do we have a second? Do you have a second?
Yeah, we're in discussion.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Economic Development Commission, a completion of a 5-year term that would expire 11/30/2023, and two 5-year terms that would expire 11/30/2027.
So, council members, I would like to appoint Steve Byron for a term that will run from November 30th, the year 2027. It's a 5-year term.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Halliwell Review Committee, 8 2-year terms that would expire 11/30/2024, which is appointed by the town council, and a 1 2-year term that would expire on 11/30/2024, which is appointed by the TA.
So we have 7 review committee members who are looking to be reappointed. They would be Stephen Corriveau, Scott Savini, Frank Halliwell, Robert Mayo, Laurie Chartier, and Jeffrey Porter. Oh, and I'm sorry, and Robert Nigerian.
I think Robert's yours, right?
Would be the TA appointment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there you go. So let me go back. Stephen Corriveau, Scott Savigny, Frank Halliwell, Robert Mayo, Laurie Chartier, and Jeffrey Porter would like to be reappointed to the Halliwell Review Committee, 2-year term expiring 11/30/2024.
Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion, please.
Mm-hmm.
Madam President, may I ask Mr. Porter a question? I'm seeing a couple of names on here that I didn't think wanted to be reappointed. Can you confirm that they all want to be?
I have not been made aware of who wanted to be reappointed and who did not.
Okay.
So if they did, I know the town clerk's office had sent out the letter to us all to ask if we were interested in being reappointed. Those that were still interested did reply. So I think those are the names that you have.
Okay. So that's good?
They all responded?
All right.
Great.
That's good.
So roll call?
So do we have a second on those names?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Administrator, did you want to do yours?
Yes, my nominee would be Mr. Robert Nigerian to continue in that position.
And we don't have to do anything on that one, right? Historic District Commission, completion of a 3-year term, terms that would expire 11/30/2024, and 2 3-year terms that would expire 11/30/2025.
Madam President, we have Elizabeth Martin, who would like to be reappointed to a 3-year term expiring 11/30/2025.
Second that motion?
Any discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Juvenile Hearing Board, 3 3-year terms that would expire 11/30/2025.
Madam President,
Yes.
Town Administrator appointment, I'd like to reappoint April Lombardi.
Okay.
And before it gets into the Town Council, you'll see that there's an application, also number 3, Richard Savary, who's in the audience tonight. Richard also would like to apply for Public Safety Committee, so that's his preference, and let's give that consideration later on.
So you want to do both or just one?
Uh,
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I have Denise Gerton, who has asked to be reappointed to the Juvenile Hearing Board for a 3-year term expiring 11/30/2025.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Parks and Recreation Commission. These are also your appointments, Paul?
They are,
Okay.
Madam President. So, Ann Fielder Lilly, Cheryl Marandola, Gregory Burnup, Matthew Text, he's non-voting. And Jennifer Keith is an applicant. I would like to appoint her as well. I had a lengthy conversation with her. This is radio feedback. A lengthy conversation with her in the parking lot several months back, and I think she'd be a good addition to the Parks and Rec Commission.
I was there, right?
You were.
Yeah.
And Mr. Administrator, I think there's another person that contacted me that I sent the information to the clerk. So you should have that soon.
I do have that upstairs. I didn't bring it down because I was told these were going to be continued. I don't have the application with me.
Okay.
So, Council,
Yeah.
Councilor Hamilton, I'll defer. Is this someone that you,
Melinda Howard, yes,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah, so
She wants to get involved.
can we add it to, she's not on the list tonight.
But she's sent in everything, her bio and
Yeah.
everything, right?
Just to play it safe, can we ask council to consider this as, make a motion to add that name to the list? Because I will make that appointment this evening, if council's in
Fine.
unity on this one.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
We have to do roll call?
Yeah, because we have to approve his.
But you're just asking for to add
The
Melinda,
addition.
right?
Right now, yeah, I wanted
Yeah.
to roll call, so because it was not on here, I just wanted to make sure that it's transparent.
But we-
Joanne, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. And then we have to approve his.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, yeah.
So I make a motion that we approve April Lombardi and Denise Gerton.
We already voted on
Well, on
that.
Parks and Rec.
Just,
Parks and Rec.
oh, I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
I'm all the way down here, okay. Parks and Recreation, we have several
Didn't we already do
people
that?
that were mentioned by the administrator, Ann, Cheryl, Gregory, Matthew, Jennifer, and Melinda Howard for 2-year terms expiring 11/30/2024.
So motion, is there a second?
Wait, there's a
I'll second.
discussion.
Oh, wait, what?
I think a point of order on the Parks and Rec Commission, Matt Tech is the liaison
Yeah.
to the commission. He's not a member.
Right, yeah.
Well, he shouldn't be included with 7. He's actually the 8th person.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you want to start that over?
So we have
So we
4
have,
No, we have 1 non-voting.
we have Ann,
Yeah,
Lily, Cheryl Marandola, Gregory Burnett,
yeah.
Jennifer Keith, and Melinda Howard.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Planning Board, we have first alternate one-year term that would expire 11/30/2023. The second alternate one-year term that would expire 11/30/2020.
The clerk has indicated that Jennifer, Matthew Tex, if he's in the 8th position and a non-voting member, that needs to be voted on.
Even though he's non-voting,
Because it still says he's appointed, again, I'm reading what's on the agenda, I don't know, it's an appointment to a non-voting position.
So make a motion for that?
Well, yeah, it was appointed by the TA and I think subject to the approval. It's on your list.
Okay.
Okay, so then I'll make a motion to approve Matthew Tech as a non-voting member
And liaison.
and liaison.
Is there a second?
Second.
Give him a second, check.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to just vote on it, right?
You can vote on it, and if you need to reconsider, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Can I just ask what you're checking on, David?
To see whether or not
We need to
this
vote him.
non-voting member is in the charter.
Oh, okay. I got
He's
it.
more of a liaison than a non-voting member.
Yeah, this came about several years ago. With all of the things that the commission works with the school department on, we felt back then that it was a good idea to have a liaison from the school department. And so Matt stepped forward, running Camp Phoenix for me and just being the liaison from the school department side. That could change tomorrow if they appoint another athletic director. So, as it is right now, I just wanted it, I wanted it on the record that he's not one of the 7 commission members.
That makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
So instead of holding this up, Madam President, how about we just we amend the motion to appoint pending whatever the charter says for this instance?
Whether you really want to make a motion.
I'll just be safe and do it.
Yeah, let's just be
Okay.
safe.
Do
So
it.
we have a planning board member for the,
Did we finish?
No.
We didn't finish Park and Rec
I think we're
yet.
still on Parks
Why
and Rec,
not?
probably.
We didn't finish the vote for Matthew, right? So are we at a second now?
we need a second.
Second.
All right, a second, okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, the discussion is, he's not really a non-voting member, he's just a liaison. I wouldn't even call him that. Like,
Right, but while
there's an
he's
assistant
stepping in-
athletic director that could suddenly become the liaison tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's just a question of the charter. It may be in the charter that we have to.
Doesn't appear to be in the charter.
All right, then.
So we don't have to vote on him?
No.
Okay.
Now we're on the planning board.
Now we're on the planning board. First alternate one-year term that would expire 11/30/2023. Second alternate 1 year that would expire 11/30/23, and 1 5-year term that would expire 11/30/27.
so we have Roland Menard, who would like to be reappointed to as a first alternate.
Can we
on a
do
term
them
that
separate, please?
expires 11/30/2023.
Is there a second?
Madam President, do you mind if I confer with the solicitor for a second on this?
On the planning board?
Yes. I don't know, so looking at the way this is set up, we have a first alternate and a second alternate, yet there's a 5-year appointment by town council. There's no name there. do we know if Mr. Bernard or Mr. Benoit would consider being appointed to a 5-year which expires as opposed to being an alternate? Did you get any correspondence?
He just said that he would like to be reappointed as first alternate.
Oh, okay, all right, thanks.
Madam President, if I may.
Mhm.
As the vice chairman of the planning board, as it stands right now, I typically, when we do have a resignation or a member that has stepped down from his duties from his 5-year appointment, I believe it would have been Mr. Hunchak's second term, the first alternate would eventually step into that open 5-year term. And then everybody moves up a chair. So I believe at this point it would be appropriate to, and I can be corrected, I believe it would be appropriate to appoint Mr. Menard as a member for the 5-year term. If Dr. Benoit has indicated that he would like to be reappointed, he would then move up into the first seat, and then the second seat would then be open for
Yes.
application.
Okay. You want to change that to the 5-year term then?
So yes, I will amend my motion to having Mr. Roland Menard be appointed to a 5-year term expiring 11/30/2027.
So motion, is there a second?
Second for discussion. I'm all for the procedural of it all, and it makes a lot of sense to me, but what happens if Roland Menard doesn't want to be in the 5-year term?
Come back and revisit it
Okay.
next meeting.
That's fine.
Put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
It's good point. It is.
There is a planning board meeting this Thursday, so we can certainly confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
If I may, we could probably, that's where I was going with this, maybe I did not articulate the direction I wanted to go, but that was my original thought process. We can, with Joanne's assistance, we can reach out to Mr. Menard tomorrow and see if he's amenable to this, and then if not, we can just carry it forward to the next council meeting.
Okay, that makes sense.
So are we not voting or we are voting?
No, I think we're voting, right? We're
I-
voting.
I think
that's
you're
what we
voting.
determined.
So we have.
And if he
Alright.
doesn't want it, we'll revisit it.
Is there any more discussion?
No.
Roll call?
Mr. Biragad?
What are we voting on?
The 5-year term.
Roland Menard, 5-year term.
So Roland Menard, yes, that's a yes, if he wants it.
That's right.
Mrs. Hamilton?
Yes, if he wants it.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes, if he wants it.
Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
And we have a Lucian Benoit that would be in the first alternate for a 1-year position expiring 11/30/2023.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Should we also put condition upon if he wants this position or not?
Yes,
If
it
he
couldn't
doesn't,
hurt.
he's
It
gonna
just
move
says
back.
no.
No, if the other guy doesn't, he's just gonna move back down to second,
Because he could,
right?
he could say, I just want to be second. I don't know him to that extent, but,
maybe one week here.
so, okay, that's fine.
Roll call?
Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
No. Public Art Advisory Committee, 8 2-year terms that would expire 11/30/2024.
Madam President, oh, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
please.
Go ahead.
I would like to nominate, to reappoint Jennifer Tripp, Lauren Muskowski, and Christian DeRosendes to the Art Committee, which, by the way, is the most productive board in the town. I'm just kidding around, because I tell them that all the time. I tell them that all the time, I'm kidding.
No, I was gonna say, I think Budget Committee would have something to say about that.
Take a look, take a look.
Jeff's on a few boards, he's double insulted.
I tell them that all the time, I'm joking around.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Public Safety Commission, 1 3-year term that would expire 11/30/2025.
Richard Severia is the applicant for a 3-year term expiring 11/30/2025 for Public Safety Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's the one you wanted, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Unless he wanted to do two.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, we're under discussion now.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so we'll do this one.
Well, we could see what happens with them when the next batch of applications comes in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Except do fireworks.
Is there a second?
Yeah,
Second.
second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thanks.
Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, 7 2-year terms that would expire 11/30/2024.
We have 6 individuals: Linda Tebow, Guy Boulay, Irene Shuchuk, Melissa Smith, Joanne Paulus, Joyce Dolbeck, all who want to be reappointed to a 2-year term expiring 11/30/2024.
Is there a second?
A second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Madam President,
Yes.
I would, if somebody would nominate me, I'd be honored to be the council member on the spot, the council member liaison to the Senior Citizens Committee.
I nominate.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sewer Commission, we don't have any reappointments or applications as of yet. And Zoning Board, we have first alternate 1-year term that would expire 11/30/23, second alternate 1-year term that would expire 11/30/23, completion of a 5-year term that would expire 11/30/24, and a 5-year term that would expire 11/30/27.
We have 2 individuals. First is Christopher Desiel, the first alternate 1 year, which would expire 11/30/2023.
Madam President, I think there was some openings on the zoning board now, so I don't know if these people would move up or what the situation would be.
Oh, good.
But I know there've been two spots that are open now.
So maybe we should hold off on this until, or do we know how many open, I guess, spots there are?
It's 2 open spots.
2 open spots, then.
Do we want to consult with them, or we want to, yeah?
Call them tomorrow and ask if they prefer to move up, then we can have the other positions, the alternates open.
Okay. And then we can just put them at the next meeting, or the 19th.
You know I was only kidding, right?
And that's it. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.